Hey guys, and welcome to another video, and today I'm checking out this Lurssen Mastering Eq, the latest addition to the TRAC 6 range of modules from IK Multimedia. And it's a real cracker, this, and it's based on this, the famous EAR 825 EQ. Very famous EQ, designed by this guy, Tim de Paravicini, who was a sort of Rupert Neve-like, very famous audio designer. Sadly died recently of cancer, but he was renowned for his amazing designs, one of which was this EQ. Now, if you can find one, like this one on Reverb is currently going for 12 grand, they're expensive. It's a stereo EQ. There are 3 valves in either side of the stereo signal path, and it's an inductor EQ. Okay, now look, I don't do electronics, and probably neither do you, but just to kind of define things so we can kind of grasp what we're talking about here. Equalisers are basically filters, and they use some little design of circuit to exclude certain electrical frequencies, right? That leaves you with just the frequencies that you do want, and then you can have a little amp which can boost or cut the remaining frequencies that you want to work with. And this particular EQ uses inductors to do that. Another famous inductor EQ is the Neve 551. If we look at the Neve website, they define it very well. Inductors are wires wound around a coil that form a frequency-dependent resistance. So, they resist the frequencies you don't want, and then you only get the ones coming through that you do want. But the inductor windings, when they saturate, they bring out beautifully musical harmonics. And that is very much the theme with the Lurssen Mastering EQ. It's harmonically rich, it's got a nice bit of warmth to it, and most of all, it's incredibly smooth. It's very much an EQ for doing broad tonal painting rather than surgical kind of work here. And it's very versatile. You can use the color control to switch all the harmonic saturation modeling out completely if you don't want it. And when it's in, you can use the adjuster above to roll on more and more higher and higher order harmonics, or roll them off until you're down to just maybe first and second order harmonics with this control fully counterclockwise. Yeah. So yeah, very versatile. So look, it's a 3-band peak switching EQ with a high and low shelf and this harmonic saturation control. Not a huge amount of information out there on it, so let's get it on the bench and have a look at it through some scopes and see how the different EQ bands behave when we boost and cut them, and also have a look at the harmonics in action from this color control. Okay, so here we are in Logic. Let's put on a test oscillator at 440 Hz. Take that volume level down so we don't go crazy. There's my 440 peak there. It looks a bit skewed because I've tilted the whole thing here in this display and span so that this is a straight line. Okay, now let's look at the harmonics. Here we go. Here's the Lurssen Mastering EQ. Let's switch in the color button to bring in that harmonic saturation. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, boom. Ooh, there you go. There's your harmonics there. Look. Yeah, working all the way up. So there's your 880 Hertz, there's your 1.32K, there's your 1.76K, there's your 220K, etc. There's your 2.64K, there's your 3080, etc., etc. All the way up. And if we push this control up, you'll see that the harmonics get louder. Not relatively all the same. Doesn't mean they're all going to increase in loudness the same amount. Okay, but they've got louder. Generally, all of them have got louder by pushing that up. Like there's more of it. Back it off, and they start to reduce again, not equally in level. Right, like for example, at this point here, the first harmonic is now less loud than the second one. Bring it down, and you'll see as we get to a certain roll, as I bring this control down a bit more, you'll see these upper harmonics start to disappear. First, everything gets lowered in level. They all get lowered, and then eventually, look, oh, there they go. The upper ones start to drop away, and then a bit more, and a bit more, and more of the, and there they go. And you're left at full counterclockwise for this control. You're left with just the first and second harmonic like that. Yeah, so there you go. There's your harmonics, all right. Okay, let's have a look at the curves of the bands and everything now. Here we go. Now, let's start with the shelves. So 100 Hz, here's your low shelf. Now look, first of all these bands, boost or cut, it says 34, plus or minus 34 on the controls, all of them. What that means, I don't know, because like this low shelf at 100 Hz, and look at the extension of this shelf. It shelves off, like there's 100 Hz there, and at 100 Hz it's almost 12 dB boosted. Where it tails off at 20 Hz, it's 18.5. But look, it's like a tilt EQ with the centre there at 100 Hz, and it's tilting up that way. There's the fulcrum in the middle at 100 Hz and tilting off that way. I mean, look how much it extends up to 1K. And there's a slight dip down where it ends and then comes back up again, yeah? And it's almost a straight line. But as we switch down the frequencies, it becomes more and more concaved and sort of scoops up like that to that final shelf boost, right? Now, with all the bands, they tend to cut less than they boost. So we do full cut on the shelf now to 100 Hz, and at the frequency of 100 Hz, it's actually cutting by just 9 point something dB, 9.2 dB. And at the full 20 Hz where it tails off, it's only cutting at 15.6 dB or something, right? And it's again sort of straight line almost. And it does the same thing as we switch down the frequencies. It becomes more and more convexed as it rolls off the shelf like that. Okay. So that's that one. The high shelf. Here it is here. Put it at 3K. Ram it up like that. There you go. And it's an S shape sort of thing. It's not a straight line as the low shelf. So it comes. But look how far it extends down. There's your 3K there. It extends all the way down to like 200 Hz, 300 Hz. But so again, it's a bit like a tilt EQ. There's the center at 3K, and there it is tilting up, and no doubt that S extends out if I could get this to go up higher than 20. If I switch up, it starts to become more and more flat until it starts to then become a scoop, you know, a concaved scoop shelving up at the end. And in cut, it's the same thing. It starts off more of a straight line, albeit with this S bend in it. But as we step up the frequencies, it becomes more and more convexed as it rolls off the frequencies with more of a bump like that, right? So the low and high shelf sort of mirror each other in that way, okay? The mids, and I'm going to drop this bit into the video edit because I forgot to add it, their general character is that they start off when boosting and cutting with a nice wide Q, very gentle. But in the final last bit of the travel of the pot to full boost or to full cut, they come on really peaky. So they exhibit quite dramatic proportional Q in the very last bit of the travel of the pot to full boost or full cut. And the low mid has a wider Q, a little bit wider than the high mid, and the center mid has a narrower Q or a narrower width from the get-go than the other two. Okay, that's their general character. The center mid is pretty even. We'll see that in a minute, but the low mid, we'll call it, and the high mid, again, mirror each other. So if we set this one at 1K and give it full boost, it's boosting at 14 something dB, right? Cutting at 12, nearest damn it, right? And it's the same with the high mid like that. Boosting a bit less, 13.3 or thereabouts, 13 point something. Cutting a bit less again, 11, minus 11 or something, right? Okay, but this low mid and high mid exhibit the same character. Let's see it in boost. It's the same in cut as well. The low mid, its peak like that isn't even. It doesn't roll off the same each way. It rolls off. This is the low mid, and it rolls off towards the lower frequencies with a gentler slope. The high mid rolls off towards the upper frequencies with a gentler slope. Right? The low mid rolls off to the frequencies above with the steeper slope. The high mid rolls off to the frequencies below with the steeper slope. Okay, so they sort of mirror each other like that. But if we look at the low one here, it's the same in boost or cut. As we step down the frequencies with the low, that difference between the slope on each side becomes less and less. Yeah, it gets a little bit wider. Right. At the end. Yeah. And that's the same when it cuts. The high is the opposite. Right? It's rolling off the frequency steeper below itself and smoother above, but as we step up, it does that. 10k has that really tight peak there, and then it just starts to even out then. Okay, but the mid, and it does the same in cut as well, but the mid is entirely different. It doesn't have that uneven bump, right? It's equal. The slope is rolling off equally pretty much each side, and it boosts 14 point something like the others and cuts at nearly 12. Right. Here we go. And if we move it around, it doesn't really change much. Yeah. The slope rolling off each side of it is pretty much the same. Yeah, so that's that mid. Okay. Okay, that's it really. Let's have a. Oh yeah, and it's like say the Neve 1073. These bands greatly interact with each other. So I mean, like if you've got a, let's do this shelf. If you've got a shelf that extends. I'm boosting it to 100 Hz, but it extends right up to 1K. So if I then was to dip the 120 mid above it, it's going to carve a dip out of that huge shelf that's extending right up to 1K and give it an actual bump just after the dip, like that. There's an interaction between these bands. So if I do that, we've now got a sort of a bump, a peak-like bump at the bottom end there, right? Which emphasises the boost here. You can do that kind of thing, like you can with a 1073 or something, right? The same the other way around. If I've got this vastly extending shelf at the other end. It's the same with cut, and it's extending right down to below 1K. So if I were to, carve out some 8K there, it's going to make a bump before the final end of the shelf dips up like that, or a little bit further down like that. Yeah, you know what I mean. So there's an interaction between the bands anyway. Okay, let's put a bit of material through it. Just lastly. What you tend to find with the CQ is it's beautifully smooth. You tend to find you really notice what it's doing when you take it out, right? So here we go, and wait for the disc to spool up. So check out this 20K shelf, but remember it's extending all the way down to 1K and a bit below actually. Yeah, it's a really lovely EQ, it really is. But you've got to understand there's a huge interaction between the bands, okay? So you kind of have to understand how that works, and then you mess with that, okay? So I hope that's useful. Please subscribe. Comments below. Love to hear your comments on what you think about this EQ and the T-Rack stuff in general, or any of your favourite plugins, etc. The next review I've got coming up is I've just been redoing my bench in a different room. You'll see it in the next video. I've got the ADAM, I think the D3V monitors, the little portable type ones. I've got those to review next. Haven't even unboxed them yet, so that's the next review. That'll be coming in the next couple of days. So look out for that one. As I said, please subscribe. Comments, please. Look in the description below. I'll probably leave some links there, maybe to the T-Rack 6 review I did. If you have T-Rack 6 Max package, just update your package and this will be in it, okay, because it's part of the package. Okay, hope that's useful. I'll see you for more videos soon. Cheers.